Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Special TV. Today, we have a pleasure of welcoming a true pioneer in the field of space entrepreneurship. Alison Reno is an esteemed entrepreneur who has made significant contributions to space science through her innovative ventures and visionary leadership. We are honored to have her to join us today to share their insights and experiences about space entrepreneurship. So let's welcome her. Hello ma'am, how are you?
Great, thank you so much for having me on your show.
I really thankful for your precious time.
I feel
Now
the
I
same
want to
way.
start with question that can you define what the space entrepreneurship is?
Space entrepreneurship is no different than any other entrepreneurial venture.
Right.
It's just not in the hospitality field or sales or cars. It's in the field of space. And all of the principles of success are exactly the same.
What happened in your life when you have to come in this field?
That's a great question. Some of your viewers may know I'm the mother of 11 children.
It's amazing.
And that was my first job and still my most important. But it taught me all the basics of how to be an entrepreneur. And when I was 50 years old, I decided to get my university education.
Right.
And got my bachelor's, and I received my master's at Harvard. And there a professor believed in me, really more than I believed in myself, and suggested that I go into the space industry and that I do all of my research at Harvard on NASA and the US space program. And this is actually what led me into the space industry, was just a mentor in my life. And I fell in love with the space family. And the reason I did is because space people can't look at differences. They have to look at working together as a team. Or governments are going to lose a lot of money and somebody's going to die. So what I found with working in space is that we forget about culture, language, skin color, backgrounds, gender, age. How can we work together to succeed? And it kind of elevates us above all these boundaries and these geopolitical tensions we have here on the earth to accomplish something impossible together.
What's unique in you and you have to achieve all your goals? What's uniqueness in your personality and what's unique in your, you can say, mind, in your thoughts?
I think really my mother actually taught me to always think big and to not to think halfway or mediocre, to always shoot for the moon and shoot for the stars. And she always pushed me this way, and she created a mindset. And even in the hard times in my life, I still had something inside of me that said, one day you can fulfill your dreams.
What are the key challenges that the space entrepreneur face during business?
Mm-hmm. I would say 4 words: high cost,
okay,
and high risk.
Right.
And President John F. Kennedy said this when he inaugurated our Apollo program in the 1960s. He said, we go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And space is hard, and space is hostile. But in particular, when you're starting a space business, the obstacles that you're going to face, first of all, is you're going to have to raise millions of dollars. You're going to have specialized equipment, specialized engineers, and specialized attorneys to create a team that can put together the spacecraft that you're trying to create. And then you're going to have to also hire a launch provider, which in our case we hired SpaceX on my most recent venture.
Right.
The second thing is the lengthy timeline it takes to develop the spacecraft. And
okay.
A lot of venture capitalists and investors don't want a long timeline. They want a short timeline with
yes.
a quick return. So that's another challenge, is securing funding.
Okay.
And the last big challenge is regulatory hurdles with governments. Because there's a lot of rules and a lot of regulations that you have to follow. And in a lot of ways, you're actually challenging new territory in
right.
regulation. That they almost have to create new law and new policy as you move along.
Now I want to ask, how can space entrepreneurs identify their opportunities within the same field?
Mm-hmm. The success of any business is based upon the need of the public, and finding that gap and filling it and monetizing it. So in some ways that it's the same. And the way that we identify what sort of business we can build in space is we study, we watch, we learn, we read, we see where is this industry going, and how can we fill the gaps. It's really no different than any other business that you might build. But in our case, we have noticed the company I'm involved with and helped start up is called Lone Star Data Holdings. And what we saw was that NASA was going back to the moon, and this time it wasn't going to be just touch the moon for a day or two and get back home to the Earth. NASA's going to the moon to stay.
Okay.
And to work and to do research, etc. And so we knew that there was going to be a future, and there will be a future lunar economy, which is interesting, right? Yes. And we knew that there would be a need for a server and edge processing.
Right.
Currently now we're having to beam information back and forth from Earth to Moon, but if they can have a server on the Moon that serves them right there with edge processing, it speeds up all of the robotic equipment or whatever the astronauts might need. The other thing we noticed is that data storage has become a priority for businesses and governments on Earth. And there are big data centers outside of every city. There's data centers under the ocean. There's data centers everywhere that store this precious commodity that we have. And many countries and many businesses are afraid that their data is going to be destroyed. And so we have created off-Earth data storage on the Moon. And that's my spacecraft that landed on the Moon last week successfully. Actually did the technology test, and we brought data back and forth to the Moon and stored some on the Moon. It's there right now.
What are some more promising areas for space entrepreneurs in the coming years?
I think the lunar economy, because governments can't do it all.
Okay.
They have to rely on private companies and innovation of people to make it work. And NASA has always collaborated with other governments from the very beginning, as well as with private companies. Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman, they've all built NASA's equipment. We're hired to do so. So this is nothing new. It's just a matter of watching, learning, keeping your eyes open, and seeing where that gap is that you can fill.
Okay. What role do innovations and technology play in this field?
Well, I think that space exploration is number one thing that drives innovation.
Right.
It's a difficult task, and you're constantly having to adapt and change and learn, and you're pushing the boundaries of innovation completely at all times.
Right.
In fact, when our spacecraft, Intuitive Machines, it's not my spacecraft, but we were on the spacecraft, our payload, was landing on the Moon about a week and a half ago. Some of our lasers and things malfunctioned, and we weren't able to do our descent properly. So we quickly had to adapt and come up with another plan. How are we going to do this? And it was a nail biter on the landing, but you're just constantly having to solve problems. And I think to the public, sometimes even our Apollo programs, our moon landing programs, if you talk with our Apollo astronauts, as I have, there were a lot of problems, that they were solving along the way, and everything. So it's just a constant driver of pioneering new innovations, new inventions.
How we can resolve these problems?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're in space and you're in the space industry, you have to love problems.
Share some tips how we can resolve it.
Mm-hmm. So the number one is you have to have a team that doesn't care who gets the credit.
Okay.
You look for the person that can solve the problem, and you work together, and everybody listens to each other until we come up with a solution. It often has to be done very, very quickly. Another thing is when you're working in the space industry, you got a 50-50 chance of succeeding, 50% chance every time you do something. And you have to love failure.
Right.
You'll watch Elon Musk, who owns SpaceX. And every time he's testing new products, testing rockets, they're blowing up. But if you'll notice, he's never discouraged because he knows that is part of the process to get to success. And our machine that landed on the Moon a week and a half ago kind of tipped over.
Okay.
Right? Which affected the solar panels facing the sun to give us the power and energy we needed to drive everything that we wanted to do.
Okay.
But we're going back late this year again, landing the same spacecraft again, or a new one, but similar, And I think this time, we will improve. I think in life you learn more from failure. You learn more from losing than you do from winning. Because if you're winning, you tend to have blind spots. You begin to get prideful. You begin to think you have no problems. You don't look inward. And when you fail, it's a time for self-reflection.
Right. How do space entrepreneurs secure funding for their ventures?
Well, like I said, it's a challenge because of the,
it's
very
challenge.
high risk. And a lot of investors don't want high risk. They want a solid return, just like you would with your money or I would with my money. We don't want to do a high risk and a long-term venture. So in our case, with Lone Star Data Holdings, putting that payload on that cargo on that spacecraft, we had a variety of investors. It wasn't just one. And we had to pound the pavement. We had to work hard. The leadership of Lone Star, which is Chris Stott, to secure that funding, and it took a multiple group of people to make it happen.
Share some examples of your colleagues and your working members who have secured their funding for ventures.
Well, first of all, Chris Stott and I kind of shared this dream in 2014.
Okay.
He was a professor at International Space University, which is a NASA-sponsored international space program school where people from all over the world come, and space professionals do, and 120 of us from about 40 countries, and we spend 10 weeks together learning everything there is about space. And Chris was one of my professors. And I shared with him a vision that I had about lunar tourism one day. Actually having tourism on the moon, restaurants, malls, hotel rooms, places where families could come and see what it's like up there. And so we started in our brains thinking 2014, this is our end game. But along the way we found out we had to start small, baby steps. And so our first baby step is actually just putting data storage and a server, on the moon. And these are the, steps and challenges you have to take along the way.
Okay. Do you think this field is safe for girls, for females?
Absolutely.
How?
Because, as I told you, in this now a long time ago it wasn't the case. When we started our astronaut program in the United States, there were women that actually tested with the men.
Right.
And even outdid the men. But our president said absolutely not. No women in the space program whatsoever. But things have changed and barriers have been broken. And we've had many female astronauts and they are impressive. And now what I found is that the space industry, space family, our particular government and governments around the world, I've noticed that it's 50% women now. Because people look past, as I said, gender. They look past age, they look past where you were born. And people, again, are just wanting to advance exploration, advance science, advance inventions, and they're just looking for the best minds possible.
A lot of people are there who want to take startups, but they can't do it. How they can take startups? Can you share some tips?
How to do startups? Excuse me, like steps on how to get secure funding.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. So the way I think to secure funding is you have to be organized, just like you would in any other pitch, and you have to show your final vision, and then you have to show all the steps to get there. You have to show you have a marketing team and a board of advisors, and you have to show that you have the specialized equipment and the specialized training and the knowledge and the steps to get there and be very, very organized. Right. In our case, because this was such a high-risk adventure, we put together a board of advisors that was a dream team. And on that board of advisors, you will find former NASA astronauts, men who walked on the moon, people that were in charge of NASA, the finest space architects. We assembled a team of advisors, and it created credibility, I think.
Right. Mm-hmm. Can you share some examples of successful ventures of space entrepreneurship?
Well, I think the one that we all know about is SpaceX.
Okay.
We've seen some billionaires. Billionaires really started the space startup industry that we're talking about. Richard Branson with Virgin Galactic, the owner of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, he has Blue Origin, and of course there's Elon Musk who created PayPal, and he started SpaceX. And you know, there was a time back in, he hasn't been in business that long. There was a time back in, I don't know, 1999, 2000, he was sitting on the back of a bed of a pickup truck with a friend of mine discussing, how do I build a rocket? You know, everybody that's an expert now was once a beginner.
Okay.
And he was just a man who wouldn't quit. He wouldn't take no for an answer. And he risked all he had to create these rockets, and now they're launching like crazy. They're reusable. I was actually there at Kennedy Space Center, NASA, our launch center, and watched the first Falcon Heavy rocket go up and stick the 2 stages at the same time, the boosters on the ground. And you know, wow, how impressive is that? And another thing that he's done that's really changing the world is Starlink Internet.
How can we get inspiration or motivation from these persons who are successful in this field?
I think it's important. In fact, my life really changed by reading biographies.
Okay.
Not necessarily biographies about space people, but biographies of presidents of the United States or leaders of nations. I began to read their biographies. And I began to see that they are just like me and just like you. They brush their teeth. They put their pants on one leg at a time. They just had a mindset of greatness and not taking no for an answer. And they never wanted to quit. And they would think big. And I used to try to compare my mind to their mind, and I realized my mind was small and their mind was big. But I realized I was actually a human just like them.
Yes.
I just needed to change what was between my ears.
How we can change mindset? It's a very good thing. I was thinking a lot of people are there who can do anything, but there is some restriction in mind. How we can avoid these kind of vibes from mind?
I think it's the people you hang out with.
Okay.
Who do you associate yourself with? It's
share some steps how we can avoid these kind of vibes.
Well, we all have our core set of friends that we are comfortable with, correct?
Okay.
But there's times in our life when a door opens for us to go meet somebody new, or we're invited to do something, and it's scary. It makes us uncomfortable. But I think it's very important every time a door of opportunity opens, you say yes. And for me, I've always said yes.
Okay.
I've never said no. And most of the time, I did it scared. And I did it feeling unqualified. But it was my brushing up against these fascinating people that made me aware what I needed to change about myself. And if you can't, let's say, travel or go somewhere when you're invited, you can still watch YouTube and watch people who are successful and compare yourself to their principles. You can still read books. There's a lot of things you can do to expose yourself to successful people and look at their patterns of success and copy them, and that's what I did, is I realized I needed to change.
Okay, right. Now we have to go for break. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are discussing on very important topic, and our guest is very amazing, and she was discussing all the perspective of today's topic. And now I wanna ask, how do space entrepreneurs collaborate with government agencies and other business stakeholders to take advancement in their field?
I think the first thing is you have to develop a relationship.
Okay.
Right? And you have to have connections within the government, friendships, because life is built on networking, correct? And then you listen and you find out the needs of governments. Governments they don't actually build the spacecraft themselves. They hire people to do these things. And so, number one, you listen to exactly what they need. Second, they often have funding programs for space startups because they want the private sector in the United States to succeed, and often they will subsidize you along the way. So it's just important to listen, learn, and see the needs. One of the things I had the opportunity to do was work in the Office of International Relations at NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. And NASA headquarters is actually the policy-making, kind of the chief headquarters for all of NASA. And then we have about 10 different branches around the United States that specialize in different parts. And at NASA headquarters, they have one category called the Office of International Relations. And this is where I worked. And this is where we spend all of our time connecting, collaborating, building relationships with our major space partners. And we are on a daily basis on the phone, having coffee, having dinner, creating events to just hang out with the Japanese Space Agency or the Russian Space Agency or European or German or UK or Canada, because America's very knows we can't do it by ourselves. It requires a lot of different countries contributing. So we have great respect for all of our partners around the world. And in fact, we've been signing what's called the Artemis Accords all over the world, shaking hands with people because we need as many countries as possible to help us get back to the moon and create a permanent base there.
Any other ventures you have done and you want to share in this program?
You know, you asked earlier, how can you create a business and how do you identify areas? One thing that you can do is actually take technology and space technology that's already been created and take that technology and apply it somewhere to change people's lives. So let me give you an example. This is one of my favorite adventures I've been able to do.
Okay.
I received a video 1 year ago at this time from the Amazon rainforest in Brazil. I'm sure you've heard of the Amazon rainforest, correct? This huge jungle where primitive tribes live like they have for thousands of years.
Okay.
And one of the main chiefs sent a 1-minute video and, you know, dressed like primitive people.
Okay.
And said, Allison, can you please help us have Starlink internet?
Right.
We need internet in the Amazon jungle. And I'm thinking, why in the world would they want internet? So I said, give me a few reasons. And he said, well, I'll give you 4. And he said, number 1, we have no health care. So telemedicine would be very helpful, especially for our women, you know, who are pregnant, because they would have to walk 52 kilometers one way just to get to the closest city, through the jungle.
Okay.
Second, we have no education for our children. So we want to at least do online school through class 4.
Okay.
Third, we have no way to communicate from tribe to tribe. He said currently, if we have a question, we walk 3 days to the next tribe,
okay,
ask the question, walk 3 days back with the answer.
Yes.
So it would be nice if each tribe had its own Starlink satellite so we could just talk to each other. And fourth, he said we have so much illegal invaders in the rainforest that are stripping the land of the trees and poisoning the rivers with their mining and just stripping this beautiful rainforest that we have that's kind of, you know, like it creates a lot of, it's like the lungs, the breathing of our planet. Our planet needs these trees and all of this nature that we have. And we need to be able to report to the government when there's illegal invaders so it can be stopped. And I thought, I'm in. I'm going to figure out a way. How many do you need? And he said, we want 20. Well, then I have to come up with the money. But I mobilized friends, family, businesses, anybody I could find that would help me contribute, including myself, towards purchasing these satellite dishes. And I shipped them from SpaceX headquarters, 20 of them, to Brazil, to the edge of the forest.
Okay.
Okay? Then the most fun thing was the chief said, come and help us deliver them into the jungle.
Okay.
And I had no idea what I was in for. But I flew into this little town and we took off on a 3-hour ride in a canoe and we got to the edge of the forest, the beginning of the path. And then the first tribe was about 40-kilometer walk through the jungle. And we're talking everything you've seen on TV. Snakes, jaguars, spiders, scorpions, rivers, everything possible that could kill you. And it was so hot and so humid you can't imagine. But we were determined, the chief and I. And so myself, and there was about 4 of us, that walked to the first village. And when we got there, all of the chiefs were waiting. It was a 52-kilometer walk in the end, one way.
Okay.
All the chiefs from our Amazon could come to receive their Starlink. And we spent 3 or 4 days together, having fun, having meetings, enjoying each other. And you know, these tribes have never seen outsiders like me. They've just been in their own world. And usually people like me are not welcome there. But because I came with space technology, I was welcomed into their family. And I found very moral people, very hardworking, very polite, just amazing human beings, like human beings all over the earth.
Yes.
They are awesome everywhere you go. And then we would go from village to village and begin to set up the towers. And I'm a farm girl, so I was having fun. We were cutting down trees, creating the big tall stands for the satellite dishes using solar power. And then we would mount that dish up there, way high in the sky, I'd get on my phone, log in
Right.
with SpaceX, and suddenly you'd see that dish begin to spin, looking for that constellation, satellite constellation up in space to connect to. And the next thing you know, you look down, and just like on your phone, where it says Wi-Fi connected, it says Wi-Fi connected to Starlink. And suddenly you're online in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. And then I had the privilege of broadcasting with the chief into the United Nations
Yes.
General Assembly as well. For the first broadcast, it was historic from the Amazon jungle because of this amazing product and called Starlink Internet, space technology. So sometimes it's about application of
Yes.
it. And I'm actually going back. I leave in 1 month to go back to take it to many other chiefs that are requesting it. I'll be risking my life again, but you know, I'm not going to die with any regrets. I'm going to give it my best every day.
Right. What's the scope of space science in your point of view?
Space science?
Yes.
You know, space science and space exploration go hand in hand.
Okay.
Correct? And sometimes there's a argument that one's more important than the other, but that's not the case. Space exploration is when we are actually putting astronauts on the moon or going to the International Space Station or exploring, but then science is like the Hubble telescope or the new big one called the James Webb telescope. Or we've got rovers on the moon studying the climate, studying the dirt, studying the air, studying, you know, so you see how they go hand in hand together, and one can't function without the other. And often I think some people take sides, but I see it as a perfect marriage.
As your mother of 11 children,
Yes.
and how you come in this field?
How did I come in the field of space? To be honest, I was actually born in the 1960s.
Okay.
And I was
You are
around.
pretty smart. How?
I'm a runner, and I stay in shape and try to eat right, but I'll just attribute it to God, okay? But I grew up in the 60s, and I watched the Apollo space program from beginning all the way to the first day we walked on the moon. And I believe I was 8 years old when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, who, by the way, is a good friend of mine, what a privilege to be able to visit with that man about stepping on the moon for the first time as a human being. But I got to watch what space did for our country. And it wasn't the fact that it was settling the battle between us and Russia, because that's what it was really all about. But for me, I saw it lifted the USA out of the Stone Age. Suddenly, I saw all kinds of inventions happening that were, even as a girl, cooking, a microwave oven, all these things came out of people took the limits off their minds for inventions. And in addition, it inspired all the school children to want to be amazing in science and in math and in engineering. And so I saw that space exploration actually transformed everything. And so I fell in love with space a long time ago. And I even got my pilot's license when I was 18, because that was about as close as I could get to being an astronaut, was just flying airplanes. And I still have my license today. So I've always had a love for physics and you know, this escaping the gravity of Earth. And you know, it was again my schooling at Harvard and professors who encouraged me to enter into the space field that brought me where I am today. And to this day, they still check on me and see how I'm doing and encourage me.
As you are in Pakistan and your getup is just like a Pakistani girl, just like a Pakistani female, I want to ask how much you love Pakistan.
How much time do you have?
Okay.
I started coming to Pakistan in October of last year. October 5th, I think, to be exact. And I stayed in Karachi for 2 weeks. I fell in love with Pakistan then.
Share your all experiences in Pakistan.
And then after that, I came back, and I've been in Lahore, I've been in Peshawar, I've been all the way up to the Afghanistan border and Torkham border. I've been in Islamabad, I've been in Sahiwal, and what I have found is the people are so loving. And it's not me that comes back to Pakistan, it's the love of the people. It's like a magnet that brings me back. I love the priorities of Pakistan people is the same as mine. So their number one priority here is faith.
Okay.
Their number two is family. Their number three is friendships. And their number four is probably food. And for me, these are my priorities in life. And I don't find that everywhere I go. But I feel like I found my herd, my tribe, here in Pakistan, and I just feel like with my priorities, I fit in well. And I found people welcome you into their home. They feed you, they're flexible, they take time, they stay up late just to chat with you. nobody's distracted by televisions and you know, technology much. They are more interested in talking to you face to face, eye to eye.
Right.
And I love that. And that's something that the United States is missing.
How many countries you have visited until now?
Well, so when I graduated from Harvard in 2016, that's when I think the international doors opened up for me. And
Okay.
up to that time, I really hadn't traveled internationally at all, but I had a desire to. And so I have been on every continent except Antarctica. Don't plan to go there. I don't like the cold. But you know, I would, I guess, if I was invited. But as far as countries, I've lost count. But I will tell you, I'm on my second passport, and every page is full of stamps. And there's a lot of pages in there. And I marvel actually at how an uneducated housewife like me, who was kind of depressed and discouraged and going nowhere in life, could change their life at 50 years old. That it's never too late, you know, for the dreams that we have in our heart. And I'm so grateful for each and every day, because my life consisted of, for 30 years, you know, just folding laundry and washing dishes and cooking, and which I loved. Don't get me
Right.
wrong, changing diapers. But you know, I felt inside there had to be something more.
Right.
And
Which
so-
country is your favorite country for visit?
Pakistan. It's easy.
Why?
Pakistan's my
Why?
favorite. I've been here 4 times in the last 5 months,
Okay.
and
What's unique in Pakistan?
the kindness of the people, the love of the people. And they don't judge me for being an American.
Can you share some experiences of love of people?
Hmm I was staying with a family in Sahiwal recently,
Yes.
and the mother there took me in as if I was her daughter. She had me lay her head on her chest for an hour and just, you know, kiss my forehead and just, you know, play with my hair, and just treated me like a daughter. And people here just open their heart and bring you in, and it's irresistible.
Right. Can you tell me how many times you wanna come Pakistan again?
Well, to be honest with you, I am so committed to Pakistan at this point in my life. As long as everything's good in the U.S., you know, my kids are healthy, I love being in Pakistan. And I still travel to other countries, but I consider Pakistan my second home. I've actually rented an apartment here. And
Weather condition is totally changed from America to Pakistan. How you manage it?
Well, when you travel the world, I was a farm girl growing up, and farm girls are taught to be tough. We tend to ignore the rain, we ignore the cold, we ignore the heat, we just get the job done. And I think I was raised to be tough-minded, so I don't really think much about you know, the conditions that I'm in.
As you are as you are mother of 11 children, and you are still very active and very smart. Share some tips how we can become like that, become like you.
I would like to write a book that says how to stay fit and look amazing in 20 minutes a day. Because honestly, I just get my heart rate up and get sweaty for 15 minutes.
Right.
And the other 5 minutes are push-ups, sit-ups. I don't have any fancy plans. I don't have any fancy clothes. Okay, I just have a pair of shoes that I run in. And I found that I don't have to pay to belong to a gym. I don't have to get in a car and drive to the gym, change my clothes, do the workout, take a shower, get in the car, go. I don't have time for that, okay? But a pair of shoes you can take all over the world. So I've run in Africa and Japan and South America and Australia and Europe and Pakistan, and a pair of shoes. I've run in airports even. And I do it every day, 20 minutes. So your 15 minutes doesn't have to be running. It can be swimming, it can be walking, it can be hiking, it can be biking. Whatever makes your heart rate get up for 15 minutes. And really, the rest of it takes care of itself.
Okay.
It really does. Your body, your mind, everything is refreshed.
How we can get rid from depression, anxiety, and stress?
I think we all have challenges. We all have obstacles.
Yes.
We all have things that can get us down.
How we can manage these things?
I think number one, when a lot of our depression and discouragement comes from something someone did to us,
Okay.
hurt us.
Yes.
And this causes us to feel very down and very discouraged. And the number one thing is to forgive.
Okay.
And that's probably the most difficult. You have to make a decision, I forgive them. And you have to let it go. Doesn't mean you have to let them repeat it, but you have to forgive from your heart, you know, and you have to make yourself not rehearse it and not think about it. So I think that's number one, is keeping a clean heart. And that's I think that's for me like one of the number one things. And then from there, there's always somebody else in the world that has it worse than you. So any day you're discouraged about this or that, imagine what it's like to live under a bridge somewhere. You know, what would it be like if you were homeless? What would it be like if you had cancer? And any given day, we have it better than somebody else, and we should be grateful, and we should be appreciative, and we should have a life where we don't complain. And I think over time, I've also found if I feel discouraged, I immediately go help somebody else. Or I immediately get on the phone and call and check on someone else. Or I text someone an encouraging message. And it gets my mind off of me, and somehow the depression lifts. And you start thinking about other people instead of yourself.
What's the importance of money in successful life?
What's the importance of money?
In successful life.
You know, money, for me, I didn't have any money for 30 years. I was raising children, and it was very, very difficult. But now that I have a little bit more because my children are gone, I see that money is not good or evil. It's just a pile of papers on the desk, right? But I see money as a tool. Money is a tool that can change lives. You can help people that are down. People that need a scholarship. I was given a scholarship. This changed my life to Harvard. You know, I was given opportunities from an angel investor to start a gymnastics program. And I took advantage of this, and it changed my life. So money can really help other people. That's how I see it. And money can help your children. There were so many times I didn't have the money to buy them each their own ice cream cone. I had to buy one big thing and then go home and everybody got a bite. But there was a day came when I finally had enough to buy each child their own flavor. I don't know, it's things like that that put a smile on my face. Not so I could put it all in my pocket and go buy a fancy purse. It was to bless others.
Now our program is going to end. I really thankful for your time, and you are very amazing person for us, and I have learned a lot from you. It's been a pleasure to bringing this program, and I really thankful all of you. And now I wanna say until next time, stay tuned and take care.